right? Riding a cable car up and down the hills of the city, right? That's what the Warriors season has been like. They started off 12-3, the best record in the West. However, it went downhill pretty fast. The Warriors went 13-23 in their next 36 games, falling to below 500 multiple times. But now they're getting back. 13-2 since February 8th. So let's get out and run, brought to you by Samsung, to show you how this Golden State team has surged back up the standings. The Warriors have been a completely different team since Jimmy Butler made his debut on February 8th. Over that stretch, he's missed only one game. Golden State is 13-1 when he is in the lineup. Now, they have been particularly hot as of late, winning a season-high 8 straight games. That's propelled them to being 10 games over 500 for the first time all season. And of course, the Warriors capped off this run with a 26-point win over the Kings on Thursday, their 5th 20-point win since Butler arrived. And in that victory, Steph, he made 2 3-pointers and became the first player to make 4,000 threes in NBA history. And to boot, he did it on his birthday. So, Bob, you've had a first-hand look at so many of those 3-point buckets. Can you just put into perspective this milestone for Steph Curry?
You know, look, everybody appreciates him, as they should. Stephen A. has got a good term called box office. I'm not sure anybody embodies that more than this guy. Everybody that's played basketball or watched basketball wishes they could take the shots he takes and make the shots he makes. There is no bad shot for Steph Curry. There really isn't. When he was with the Warriors, when I was there, I remember asking a coach one time, Malik, I said, was that a good... Curry took some crazy shot, and he grabbed me. He goes, there is no bad shots for him. And the fact that he's doing it for as long as he's done it, will that record be broken? I don't know. But he was the one that began this 3-point barrage, and he has that label deservedly. And to see him hit that record, happy for him, happy for everything he's accomplished.
That's it.
I could do more. I mean, I'm trying to be fair.
For a guy that got you 4 championships.
Okay, thank you. I texted him on his birthday. I said thank you for everything.
Let me take over.
Sorry,
First of all,
Stephen
A.
Well, he's busy.
First of all, Stephen A., you talked about grit. Let me give a shout out to my Butu brother, Tony Allen, who getting his jersey retired down there in Memphis. I got real love for him. Right. That's number one.
He deserves it. Yep.
Number 2, Steph Curry is the greatest point guard of all time. Greatest point guard of all time. We talk about those 4,000 points and it impacting his legacy, right? Think about what it did to the league. It changed the NBA. It changed basketball forever. You talk about these guys that wish they could take these shots, these kids that wish they... Well, I'm actually in the gym watching these...
But I'm not sure that's...
trying to take those shots, Bob. And when you think about it, when you think about Steph, he's one of the most skilled players to ever play the game of basketball. Already the best shooter to ever play the game of basketball. Top 5 in handles, right? And when it comes to finishing at the basket, but let me read this to y'all. Steph Curry, okay? There are only 2 players to win an Olympic gold medal, multiple MVPs, multiple NBA titles, and multiple scoring titles. That's Steph and Jordan.
That's a nice round number for Steph Curry. Obviously, he already held the record, so he'll be the first to 4,001 also, and all the others. But I get that they like the round number. So Steph, look, he has been blazing his own trail since he came out of Davidson in 2009. 4-time champ, 2-time MVP, the 4,000 threes, one of 30 players with 25,000 points. By the way, today is his 37th birthday. And so Shaquille O'Neal yesterday on Inside the NBA used the word GOAT in the conversation.
You know, the way he plays the game, how he plays the game. You know, I mentioned on our show that should at least put his name in the conversation. You know,
what conversation? Say it.
Of the greatest player ever to play the game. You know, I like the way he plays. Definitely changed the game because of him. Because of him, the last 3-4 years, everybody has been running three-man weave at the top of the key. Every team is shooting threes, and they want to blame it on analytics. It's because everybody wanted to beat the Golden State Warriors because of this guy.
So there are a lot of different ways we can take that conversation, whether he is the greatest player of all time, whether he is even the greatest player of his time, whether he's the most impactful player. Let me just start, Tim Legler, by your reaction. When you hear Shaq say that, what's the first thing that enters your mind?
I don't think it's nuts because of the impact that Curry's had. Here's what I'll say about Steph Curry, Greeny. No player in the history of this league or the history of this sport has ever made defenses more accountable for their whereabouts every second. I mean, Steph Curry, the amount of offense that Steph Curry has created without touching the basketball is really unparalleled in this league. And so for me, when you talk about impact on other players and making other players on your team better, in addition to the stats and the winning and everything else that he has done, I don't think it's crazy. He's a revolutionary player. And I think that's kind of what it takes to get into that conversation. Now, for me personally, I ultimately think it's a two-man debate between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And you can make your case for one of those two guys, whatever side of that argument you fall on. I'm an MJ guy. I think a lot of people know that. But you could certainly, obviously, it's a legitimate debate with LeBron. Steph Curry, because of the unique nature of his impact and the way he has affected the league and his impact on how you have to guard him, for me, I don't think it's crazy. He's also got 4 titles, 2 MVPs. You need those things on your resume to get into that conversation. You can make an argument for him. Ultimately, though, I think it would still come down to LeBron and Michael Jordan.
I would throw into this conversation, and anyone who watched that game, I defy you to disagree with me. The United States was going to lose the gold medal game to France this year if Steph Curry did not go absolutely crazy in the last few minutes, knocking down some of the most remarkable and dramatic shots that you've ever seen in your life. And you can say, oh, it's only the Olympics. Well, in that case, I think it mattered a lot. To the Americans, I think winning the Olympic gold is not nearly as big a deal as losing is. And we were going to lose that game if Steph had not gone nuts. If you watched that game, you know what I'm talking about. I believe that factors into this conversation somewhere.
Yeah, greatest of all time, though, I'm with Legs. It's Jordan and LeBron because of the two-sided impact. But how about this? George Mikan is a guy that nobody really talks about, but he changed the game. The key was small. He was unstoppable. They had to extend the key out because he was under the basket. You couldn't guard him. He impacted the game, changed the game, literally. I think the best compliment to give Steph Curry, he changed the way we play basketball.
I would say you're not going back far enough. So people will say Steph is one of one. He has impacted the game, and there's never been anyone like him. Oh, you're over here. Let me talk to you for a moment. He is one of one in basketball history. What he is the Babe Ruth of basketball. And let me present for you some statistics. When Babe Ruth started playing in 1920, there were 630 home runs hit in Major League Baseball in that entire season. In 1934, which was Babe Ruth's last season, there were 1,344 home runs hit, which means more than double. The number of home runs that were hit in the sport more than doubled because of Babe Ruth. Let me take that to Steph Curry. In his rookie year, NBA teams were averaging 18.1 three-point attempts per game. 18, let's call it to make it a nice round number. Do you know what they're averaging this year? 37.5. More than double the number of threes because of Steph Curry. That's what Steph Curry has done. He has changed the way the game of basketball is played in the way Babe Ruth changed the way the game of baseball was played forever. Now, that is not to say he's the greatest player of all time. Those are entirely different conversations, and let's face it, they are purely subjective. Let's have an objective conversation. Steph Curry has changed the way basketball is played. That, I think, is beyond debate.
The Sultan of Swish.
The Sultan of Swish. Now, there's a whole other question that we can have, and I'm afraid to have it around Tim Legler, because Tim Legler is one of the great three-point shooters of all time. So I'm afraid of offending his sensibility when I take it to the question of the change in the game that Steph has authored.
I think so, but I think it depends on a couple of conditions. Obviously, his health. That has to stay in play, because health is everything. And his endurance, his conditioning, all of that comes with it, because his movement without the basketball is what is never mentioned nearly as much as it should. He is a nightmare to cover. He is the only person in NBA history, which is why I call him the greatest shooter God has ever created. He is the only player in NBA history that you literally have to man up on the second he steps past half court, because he can pull up from 40. It's who he is. I mean, he's that great. And so when we look at it from that standpoint, I say, okay, it took you 3 seasons to get from 3,000 to 4,000. Okay, let's say it's going to take you that much now. He just turned 37 today. Happy birthday. Today is his birthday. His 37th birthday. And so you look at it from that standpoint, he'd have to get to 40. Can he continue to move like that over the next 3 years? Can he continue to run around like that over the next 3 years? That's the question. But in terms of his ability to make shots, I have no doubt about that. He's the greatest shooter God ever created. He is just that spectacular. And that's what I say about him. He's a 4-time champion. He's a 2-time league MVP. I think we've only got 7 dudes in NBA history that have pulled that off. And he's definitely in the GOAT conversation, as Shaq alluded to. It's not to say that he is, because there's Jordan and others, but the bottom line is when you talk about the greatest, considering how he has transformed the game of basketball, the impact that he's had, his name should definitely be mentioned in the conversation. I tell you he could do it. He just has to last, meaning his condition and being in shape to do it. That's where I'm at with it.
I root yes. If I'm betting, I bet no. The numbers we threw up in terms of the pacing, the 3.9 three-pointers per game, and he would hit this in, his age 39 season, that's based on him playing 82 games a year. If he plays 70 games a year, which is still a big, healthy number, it's going to take 3.5 seasons at the current pace, which again is a pace based on what he's done throughout his career in his prime. Mind you, we're talking about the end of his career, maintaining one of the most ridiculous paces that we've ever seen for a three-point shooter in NBA history, while playing 70 games per season. That would take you into his age 40 season and put you at about 40. Given the risk of injuries, given the risk of, hey, maybe I've achieved all there is to achieve and I want to walk away early, enjoy time with my family, try to join the PGA Tour, which is a joke, but he loves to golf. I'd be more inclined, Big Daddy, to go on the under in this one just because of how much is going to need to go right in order to get another 1,000 three-pointers.
Wait, who's Big Daddy?
That would be Spears, but it could also be Stephen A. You throw it out there and you see him fight over it. That's the key.
Whoa.
Introduce a little chaos to the establishment.
This is just a lot for me right now.
I'm about half the size of Swag Goose, so you give it to him.
Yeah,
you give it to him.
You are. There's nothing Big Daddy about you.
Okay.
Let me say
Can
this.
we stop saying the word daddy, please?
Okay, yeah, you're right, Molly. We need to get rid of that one for the show. All right, we'll remove that. What they say in court, Stephen A. Remove that from the record.
Yeah. No daddy, no zaddy, whatever the terms are, please.
Daddy, continue.
I know, right? I know. Let me say this, because you both hit the caveat of obviously health and volume. Like, as long as Steph Curry is in the NBA, he's gonna be a volume shooter. So I'm not worried about him getting enough shots off. I don't care if he's 40. I don't care if he's in the 40th season. I think this is more about how Golden State positions him. I'm going to take a different angle on this. Jimmy Butler coming over. Obviously, Draymond. How long will guys be there to help facilitate for Steph? Because we know at some point it's going to be more about the space that he has based on the other players that he's playing around. I don't think the pace of running around the court 5 miles a night until he's 40 years old is going to get him open that much, because he is going to slow down. That's the reality of what we see with players generally outside of LeBron James. That's the anomaly at this point, which we can point to in the NBA. But I think it's going to be more about Golden State, the situations that he's in, and also what are they playing for? I got a question, because I don't know this. We count playoff threes, right? We do. Those are a part of this discussion. So what if this team makes a couple more deep runs into the playoffs based on personnel that they gather? I think he hit 357 last year, if I'm not mistaken, Joe. And that was 74 games he played last season. So I think it's 350, maybe 347, 357, something like that. But if we look at how you create the longevity for Steph Curry, is going to be about the organization and making sure people are still around him. I'll ask both of you this question. If we had a healthy Klay Thompson or another healthy three-point shooter that people had to worry about, would you have this issue about wondering if he would get the 5,000, or would you have a different tone?
We saw what happened with Ray Allen at the end of his career. As you get older, the role becomes a little bit more limited. Now, Steph's not showing any signs of slowing down right now, so there's no reason to assume that that's happening anytime soon. But what we're projecting and how we're talking about him getting to another 1,000 is based on the guy we see now and have seen in the past continuing on that path. That path is going to split at some point. The minutes are going to need to come down. And if Golden State is unable to contend at a serious level, Do we see him playing 33, 35 minutes a night? Do we want him taking all those threes? Or at some point, are we going to have to turn it over to the younger generation and have him play, I don't want to say a supporting role, but less of the alpha role?
Well, here's the deal. He's averaging 11.2 three-point attempts per game, second only to LaMelo Ball in the entire league. The question is, A, can he stay healthy enough to play and launch that many shots per game over the next 3 to 3.5 years? We don't know the answer to that question. Do I believe he can if he really, really wants to? Sure. But this brother has accomplished a lot in life, and you never know when he might deem it time to just walk away. And it might be inside the next 3 years. We just don't know that at this moment in time. He's got 2 years left on his deal. My point is, if he plays the next 3.5 years, next 3 years or so, and he's averaging 11.2 3-point shots per game in that span, I believe he can do it. Because I believe, like right now, he's shooting a tad under 40% from three, but for his career, he has shot, I believe, 42.3%, 42.4% from three-point range, which is third all-time for anybody who's attempted at least 2,500 or more attempts from three-point range. So I'm looking at him and I'm saying, accuracy-wise, this is actually a down year compared to what this brother has done and can do. And I'm willing to bet that he could do it if he's around.
All right, well, you're going out to see the Warriors, McMahon. The Warriors on Saturday night, it was a bit of an ugly game, but they beat the Knicks by 3. The Knicks keeping their head above water with without Jalen Brunson. They're 2-2 on this West Coast trip. But that made it, well, actually, you know what? Let's go farther back. On February 6th, which I believe was the trade deadline, they might have made the...
That is correct.
Was the Jimmy Butler trade go down that day or the day before? Whatever
day before,
it was.
I believe.
All right. They were 25-26 when they made the Jimmy Butler trade. They are now 39-28. So that's 13-2 since that time. And I think
that is correct.
I think they're 12-1 with Butler actually in the lineup. And it's not like he's putting up enormous numbers. But this has been, one of the stories of the season, this Jimmy Butler trade. First off, the Miami Heat have taken Jimmy wasn't playing beforehand, but the trade did not help them. The Heat have nosedived. They've lost 7 games in a row. And
can I interrupt you to give you one truly unbelievable stat about the Miami Heat?
At least he asked to interrupt, McMahon. Yes, listen, you may.
For you like to interrupt me without asking all the time.
He went to some like Broadway show today, so he has manners.
Yes, that's why he's dressed so nicely.
Well, I'm dressed this way because I'm working. But the Miami Heat in the fourth quarter, well, first of all, after losing very badly to the Memphis Grizzlies, we'll talk about later, Saturday night, the Heat are 4-14 since the trade deadline. The main reason for that is the Miami Heat have not played well at all in the fourth quarter over the past 5 weeks. You guys want to take a guess at the net rating of the Miami Heat over 100 possessions over the past 5 weeks is in the fourth quarter?
So just in case our listeners don't know, just to refresh, net rating is per 100 possessions, the difference in the score.
How much you're being outscored by? Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that
only in the fourth quarter.
Minus 16. I'm going to go big. Minus 16.
Okay. What do you got, Brian?
Well, they only scored 91 points against the Grizzlies on Saturday. So my guess is it didn't help.
No, the fourth quarter didn't matter, though.
Well, the fourth quarter, they were blown out in that game. Most of the games have been competitive, and then they've been slaughtered in the fourth quarter. What do you think their net rating in the fourth quarter has been since the trade deadline?
When you sort of moved past that McMahon 16 like you were unfazed. So I might take the over, but only because I'm just trying to guess because I don't know.
Okay, so it is over. Ironically, the Celtics are negative 16.
It's definitely over in Miami, but go on.
The Celtics have the 28th worst net rating in the fourth quarter since the trade deadline. They're 13-3. They've been outscored by 16 points per 100 possessions in the fourth quarter.
But some of that's garbage time. But
sure.
Go on.
The Miami Heat have been outscored by 28.9 points per 100 possessions in the fourth quarter.
Oh, my God.
They have an offensive rating of 92.9.
Oh, no.
Which is like beyond horrific. And a defensive rating of 121.8.
Okay, so we can
in the
say at
fourth
this
quarter.
point, the Warriors appear to be winning the Jimmy Butler trade.
I'm going to be honest with you. You might, if you had 4 competent NBA players and you played 4-on-5, you might be able to do better than -20.
Minus 28.9 is pretty impressive.
And the crazy thing is for the Heat, not to turn this into a long Heat discussion, but their numbers, like in the other 3 quarters, are fine. They have gotten repeatedly obliterated in the fourth quarter of games, which is why they have had an awful month.
That was a
But the Golden State Warriors have not had an awful month.
That was a brief interruption, Wendy.
Sorry, I was looking that up yesterday. I thought it was
that
an
is
unbelievable
a
stat.
flabbergasting.
Yeah,
pretty ugly.
I thought it was worth the mention.
Oh my God.
And then the Warriors I covered their lone loss with Jimmy Butler in the lineup. It was against the Mavs, when Kyrie was healthy, and but like you said, it's not like Jimmy's come in and is going for 28, 8 and 8. He's putting up good numbers, but it's like 16, 6 and 6. But like he has just fit and everything flows and hums, and he gives them a major dose of toughness, another IQ guy. And he's fit great there. I wondered if the lack of shooting with him and Draymond specifically playing together would be a problem. It certainly has not been. And I think if you're talking about kind of intangible value of Jimmy Butler, the spark of, enthusiasm and life that this gave Steph Curry has been huge. And this was, remember, Steph was the one who's like, hey, basically, if there's not a move there that makes sense, fine. But it was almost like, if we don't have a chance to contend this year, okay, I agree with not mortgaging our future for something that doesn't make sense. They didn't have to mortgage their future. They got a move that makes sense. And Steph is playing as well as he ever has.
Well, and some numbers on Golden State really quick. Warriors, since the trade, as Brian mentioned, they're now 14-2. Offensive rating 120.5, which is 5th in the league over the past several weeks. Defensive rating of 108.2, which is second only to Detroit over the past several weeks. A net rating of 12.4, which is second only to Cavs Corner over the past several weeks, including Cavs Corner's untimely defeat this afternoon to the Magic.
Untimely.
And it's untimely that they didn't keep their winning streak going into the playoffs.
It's just funny. It's just funny. Untimely.
And the Warriors I was going to check and see what the difference is before the trade, but since the trade, they have an assist percentage of 74.5, which is by far the highest in the league, way ahead of Indiana, which, not surprising with the way Tyrese Haliburton is playing, is in second. So they're moving the ball, they're sharing the ball, they're playing great at both ends, and they've been on an unbelievable hot streak.
The only reason they're not running away and safe as a top 16 is because the Timberwolves aren't losing games right now either. Both these teams have 7-game winning streaks. I don't know if either of them play tonight, but both of them have 7-game winning streaks, which is the longest in the league right now.
Yeah, and Golden State is in the middle of a 7-game homestand. I'm not sure how many they've got left. But you talked about the defensive rating. This is what has gotten them actually truly excited, because you could have a hot streak where you're playing a bunch of home games and maybe Steph is red hot or a couple of your role players are red hot. They're winning these games over this last 15, this 13-2, or it's 13-2 or 14-2. I looked up the last 15.
14.
I looked up the last 15 games. They were, second in the league in defense in that time. And so that's the basis for doing something. Teams haven't punished their lack of size. They're able to get away with that. I don't know if how much they're going to be able to get away with the, medium term, but.
Well, it is interesting. If you look through the teams they've played, there haven't been a whole lot of real challenging opponents in this stretch. And it will be really interesting. McMahon is going to be at this Denver game Monday night. I am really curious to see how the Warriors look against the Nuggets and Nikola Jokic. Because to me, I feel like if they play anybody in the West, I would feel pretty good about picking them, except for Denver and Oklahoma City, because of the size those teams have inside. And I don't really like Golden State's ability to handle that over 7 games. And it will be interesting to see how they look against Jokic and against the Nuggets. And get a decent look at what that might look like if they match up.
They have three games left on this homestand.
Right, and right after the Nuggets, they'll get another great chance to measure up against a big team.
Yes, Milwaukee.
Yeah, with the Bucks coming in, obviously with Giannis as the headliner of a huge front court.
So a week ago, I was looking at everybody who was in front of them, and I saw a bunch of teams that were banged up, and specifically the Rockets, who Fred VanVleet had been out for a while. He'd come back and then got re-injured.
Mm-hmm.
And Amen Thompson, remember last weekend we were saying Amen Thompson, sprained his ankle, and he's been such a key piece for them. And I was thinking maybe they could make.
So as you see, the Golden State Warriors have been on an absolute roll. And as we all know, during the All-Star break, Draymond Green did mention that he does believe the Golden State Warriors can win an NBA championship, and it does seem that the Golden State Warriors are proving everyone wrong. They are on a 7-game win streak as of making this video, and they have had some fantastic games back-to-back, and they are putting on an absolute show. If we had this conversation before the break, or the All-Star break that was, we actually did see the Golden State Warriors in that 10th position. Now they are currently 6th and only 2 wins away from getting that 5th spot. So they're in a very, very good position, and they are going to continue to push to try to make that top 5 position, as the Golden State Warriors are trying to stay out of the play-ins as much as they can. So it is definitely going to be interesting, and I do believe that the Golden State Warriors are going to have a favorable matchup if they end up in that top 5, and they are only 2 wins away. So there will definitely have to continue to push. Now, when we look at some of the games the Golden State Warriors have had, we've definitely seen time and time again what Golden State Warriors have definitely been doing, because they are shaking things up with Jimmy Butler a part of this lineup, and it's definitely starting to show. Jimmy Butler has been a great defensive asset to this team, but has also provided scoring and freed up a lot of the opportunities for someone like Steph Curry to go to work. Guy Santos has also been very much a part of this team, and we also have others that are continuing to get a lot more minutes, like Quinton Post, and also players like Jonathan Kuminga is now back. When we look at the matchup against the Knicks, they did a fantastic job where Steph had 28, Moses Moody had 18, and also Jimmy Butler had 11. On top of that, when we look at their percentages, we do see that they are just getting a lot more shots up than usual. They have been able to push the pace a little bit more with Jimmy Butler, and I do believe that has definitely helped this team grow, as time has gone on. Like I mentioned, when it comes to the Golden State Warriors 7-game win streak, they're not just beating easy teams, they're beating the Knicks, they're beating the Pistons, and on top of that, I do believe that the Warriors have been able to really structure their offense and defense much more better. We actually have seen the defensive strategies actually improve. When we actually look at the Golden State Warriors ever since actually acquiring Jimmy Butler, we actually do see that the Golden State Warriors rank in the top 15 in points allowed, rebounds allowed, and assists allowed as well. So overall have done a fantastic job there. When we look at another most recent game against the Sacramento Kings, where they absolutely smoked them 104-130, we saw definitely a very, very good sign. We had all players scoring at will, and we actually had a total of 7 players above 10 points, which was fantastic to see. And on top of that, we also had 4 players that were above 15. So they did a fantastic job during that matchup. They actually shot 56% from the 3-point line as a team, which is honestly insane. And on top of that, they also got more threes up, and also on top of that had a pretty decent free throw and field goal percentage as well. So they were on an absolute roll in that matchup, and we definitely have seen the Golden State Warriors put on a show over the last couple of games. When we look at other games, like against the Portland Trailblazers, where they won 130-120, we saw a different and similar situation in that sense, as the Golden State Warriors did actually have a 51% 3-point shooting night. So when the Warriors get hot, they get hot in a hurry as a team, and it's definitely starting to show as time goes on. So I do believe the Golden State Warriors do have something great on their hands, and I only see it getting better for them as time goes on. Now, with the Golden State Warriors, like I mentioned, they do rank 6th in the Western Conference, so they are going to definitely continue to push to try to get into that top 5, and I think they can do it, as the Lakers have a record of 31-25, so they are only 2 wins behind, so not too far off, and the Lakers do have a tough schedule ahead. But I think once they get into that top 5 category, I do believe the Warriors are going to be in a much better position to win the NBA championship, and Draymond Green's statement does become true.